Yes, it's Formula One Sunday, hence the jersey. So here's the thing. I know this looks like I just turned red green, that TV personality, loose on our camper with no restrictions whatsoever. But let's get into what happened and what we did about it and what I'd do differently next time. So this is the way a perfectly good Arctic Fox Four Seasons camper window pane is supposed to look. One pane of tinted glass, and it extends around the frame of the window. The inside frame of the window is fully 2 to 2.5 inches inside of the edge of this glass. Inside of the frame, there's a clear pane of glass, and these two panes of glass are attached, and that's what gives us a wonderful Four Seasons insulation against the cold. Now, let's get into the situation of what went down here. So, we had a rock come through the window. Nobody's fault, just one of those accidents while at a resort. A lawnmower picked up a rock and the rest was history. Completely shattered the tinted pane. It came down with such force that it actually took some paint off the good old F-350. And that's a whole nother little repair that we'll get into. And so what I'm going to talk about is what we did and what I'm going to do differently next time. Now, 4 things about what we did and to address the challenge. So I guess 4 of the challenges we were facing. Number 1, we're going to be rolling down the road at about 65 miles an hour, 110 kilometers an hour. Number 2, there was a heat factor. The temperature was running 41 degrees, and which translates into about 105 Fahrenheit. Number 3, we had 2,000 kilometers or about 1,250 miles left on our trip. And number 4, the initial repair that was done at the resort lasted about 250 miles or 400 kilometers. And what we did was the inner pane was completely intact. So we found some Gorilla Tape, we found some double-sided sticky tape. And with the double-sided sticky tape, we attached the clear pane as best we could inside the window frame, and it wasn't a perfect fit. But to seal it off and prevent wind buffeting, we took Gorilla Tape and applied it nice and neatly all the way around the clear frame inside of the window frame. Then we put an extra layer around, and we thought we were good, and it actually looked good. Like I said, it lasted 400 kilometers or about 250 miles. And it literally, we went around a corner downtown, what was it, Lake Tahoe? And the pane literally folded right out. We were hugely fortunate that it didn't hit the ground and shatter into 1,000 pieces. So let's talk about what we did next and what I would have done differently. So what we did is we removed the window. We couldn't chance that happening again. We took it, we stowed it in a safe spot. I think it was inside the back seat of the truck, and we went to work. There was an Ace Hardware store nearby, so we bought some heavy poly. And when I say heavy, think the thickness of a credit card or maybe a little bit thicker than that, clear poly, and that's what you see up there now. We went to work initially with Gorilla Tape. Started at the top, taped it, taped around the perimeter, and then put an extra layer of Gorilla Tape overlapping the first tape, kind of half and half. So half on the tape, half on the camper.
Too much fun!
And then I put essentially a plus sign on the window, putting a layer of Gorilla Tape vertically, a strip of Gorilla Tape horizontally, and then secured the top and bottom with an extra layer running horizontally for the vertical, and you get what I mean, securing the ends so that they wouldn't come loose. You know what? That lasted about another 200 kilometers. It all started coming apart. The heat was definitely a factor. It was so hot that the strips of Gorilla Tape that we put on the leading edge literally moved back about 3/4 of an inch, and the strips that I had along the top literally descended on the camper by about a full inch. And that wasn't just the force of gravity. What happens is the buffeting of crosswinds passing transport trucks, or transport trucks passing us, as the case might be, caused that clear poly, even with its thickness and even when supported by the extra Gorilla Tape, the sheer buffeting just worked the tape down and back. That just wasn't going to work. The next thing we were going to lose was that clear sheet of poly, and probably at the most inopportune moment when we had 200 kilometers to go to a hardware store. So as luck would have it, and I just want to make sure I don't miss anything here, as luck would have it, we were closing in on a fueling stop. We tend to stop at either the Pilot, Flying J, or the Loves truck stops. And we stopped at a Loves, fueled up, and went in. And what I came out with was this. This is fully 4 inches wide. This is the best that I think the folks at Gorilla have to offer. And there's a little note inside here. It says, permanent, may damage surface if removed. Well, believe me, at that moment, I was looking for permanent. So we bought a roll of this, and I forget, it's 10 meters or something like that. I was out of Gorilla Tape by this time, so I bought a couple of rolls, and this is 2-inch wide regular Gorilla Tape. And then I kind of checked the texture. I have to admit to kind of opening the package and checking this out. This is a Gorilla Tape as well, but it's about the thickness and feel of packing tape, but much, much stronger. And so I came out with this and went to work, and the resultant mess is what you see there. So what I started doing was just adding layers of tape. You can see what that 4-inch tape did. Part of it is attached to the wall of the camper. Part of it overlays previous tape. I didn't have the time, energy, effort, patience, or stamina in 100 degrees to do much more than just repair what was there. I added more strips vertically and horizontally to reduce the effect of buffeting on that. And there we have it. So after I had overlaid that and supported it, I don't know how well the camera is going to pick up, but I went to all the leading edges and applied that clear Gorilla Tape as well as along the top. So it worked. Hey, it got us home. We had another 1,000 kilometers, whatever that translates to in miles left, and we got it home without another worry, without anything coming loose. That might be there to stay. I don't know. The reason I'm shooting this video today is we're going in and getting at least a temporary window installed. So we'll perhaps update this with whatever residue is left on the camper and take a shot of that. But let me talk about now for a minute exactly what I would have done differently, having had this wonderful little experience. So number one, each of these tapes is going to find a hole, a spot in a little compartment or hole somewhere in this camper, and they will accompany us. I also have an order in for a sheet of poly that's very similar to that. I was very happy with that poly and how well it withstood all the buffeting and that. I have a good sense that tuck tape would do as good a job in future. And the nice thing about tuck tape is it doesn't leave a residue or marks. And so carrying a roll of that is not a bad idea. And the poly that I'll carry will be bigger than the biggest window that we have on the camper or the vehicle. We could just as easily lose a side window in the vehicle 1,000 kilometers from the nearest glass shop. And particularly not a lot of fun if on a rainy weekend. The other thing that I just realized I hadn't mentioned about this Gorilla Tape, so there's not a sticky surface. You'll notice I'm just unrolling this. You actually have to unpeel a clear layer here. While this was very, very, very effective in the heat, the magic of this tape is, and we use it around the farm a fair amount, is you can literally put it on a garden hose that is leaking and wet and under pressure. And if you just apply it with care and squeezing out the water as you apply it, it will stick and it will withstand pressure. It's an amazing tape. I mean, it is magical in its properties, and the instructions for use are all printed right inside the roll. And I tell you, it really saved our butts on this trip. So here's what I would do differently. So this is our little window opening here. No, art is not my strong suit. So we take a piece of poly and we cut it so it fits kind of like this. And then we take and tape all of this down with regular Gorilla Tape to the body. And of course, overlapping plastic and surface of the wall. And then what we do is we take the 4-inch tape and cover everything again, all sides. I'm only going to draw the leading edge and the top here. And then let me go back to, what was it? Did I start with here? Black. I needed another color of pen.
Black was the one.
But what I would take is I would run clear along the edge here and overlap it. And definitely down here. Really wasn't needed anyplace else, but that clear just protects the leading edge of the thicker tape. Even this tape, as resilient as it is, was after a few hundred kilometers, you could see the wind and the effect of working the edge of this, and the clear just nails that down. And yes, Coral's just reminding me, because we've had this conversation. We had lots of time to kill and talk about what we would do differently. So I would lay across the window using this. Again, this adheres to any surface in an amazing fashion. And that just basically doubles the thickness of the poly and prevents that buffeting, which is going to work everything loose. You know what? My sense is that you've been through a situation like this and will have more, better, different solutions. I'd love to hear them. And yeah, just throw something in the comments below. This was our first round with something like this happening. With the amount of RVing we have coming up in the coming months or years, I'll bet you it won't be the last. And stay tuned. I'll show you a picture of just how much of this tape is left on the camper after we're done this little adventure.